Welcome to Success in Doses. I'm your host, Saleh. This podcast is about the real journeys behind meaningful careers, the pivots, the risks, the moments of doubt, and the lessons that shaped who we become. Each episode, I sit down with people who are building impactful lives and careers, and we break down the experiences that help them get there. Because success rarely happens overnight, it happens in doses. Let's dive in on Becoming on Purpose. Good morning, everybody. I'm giddy. You can hear it, but that's because this platform gives me an opportunity to share a piece of myself. I have one of my faves that I'm talking to today, and I can't wait for this conversation to kick off because it's something that I am incredibly passionate about, that I see her putting a lot of work and energy and expertise into, to bringing and further elucidating the need for more conversations about this. Today, we are talking about self-advocacy and how it continues to be one of the most grossly underutilized tools in trying to mitigate burnout in young professionals and new learners. And who else to have that conversation with but the Resilience Pharmacist? Like, there's no one else. And so if you have not figured out who I'm talking about yet, I am talking about my very good friend, Kate Cozart. She is a clinical pharmacist practitioner who serves veterans at the Tennessee Valley Healthcare System community-based outpatient clinic in Clarksville, Tennessee, with a scope of practice in primary care. In addition to serving as preceptor for PGY1 residents and APPE students from several schools of pharmacy. She was one of the inaugural ASHP Wellbeing Ambassadors in 2022, and that's how I found her, and was selected as 2022 Outstanding Student Preceptor by ASCP and named the 2024 Health System Pharmacist of the Year by the Tennessee Pharmacists Association, Tennessee Society of Health System Pharmacists, and most recently has been honored with the 2026 Student Advocate Award by the Tennessee Pharmacists Association for her commitment to learner success and growth in the pharmacy profession. She has a passion for writing and speaking on all things well-being, especially burnout. Guys, I told you, I'm not bringing you chumps. I'm bringing you the real deal. Okay? Psychological safety, motivating learners, imposter phenomenon, professional identity formation, and compassion in medicine, with recent presentation at ASHP Midyear, the ASHP National Preceptors Conference, ACCP Annual Meeting, ASCP Annual Meeting, Tennessee Pharmacists Association Winter and Summer Meetings, the University of Rhode Island Seminar by the Sea, the Zeta Cooper Leadership Symposium, and the 2024 and 2025 Phi Lambda Sigma Leadership Summit. I give you my good friend and partner in the battle of making pharmacy healthier for learners and new practitioners. Hi, Kate.
Hello, Soleil. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh my God, I'm so happy. And you'll hear Kate and I chit-chatting because it's our first time connecting this mid-year, which we're going to do better. But for the person that is listening to this episode today and you hear all of what I just outlined, I think lived experiences, you believe this, is one of the most powerful things that can help set you up for success and being authentically yourself. I want you to take us through a little bit about who was the pharmacy student, Kate?
Ooh, okay. So, believe it or not, Kate, as a pharmacy student, was kind of a train wreck. So, on the surface, I was doing the things. I was very involved in all of the professional organizations. I was involved with our ASHP group. I was president of the Pharmaceutical Society organization. It was involved in PLS. I absolutely was, on the surface level, the go-getter, the one that was involved and interning at the hospital and doing research and really trying to set myself up for a successful career.
Yeah.
But in the background, a lot of my personal life was really falling apart and no one knew.
Yeah, it's wild. And I always tell people, I was like, I feel like pharmacy students are some of the most resilient of postgraduate trainees and learners out there, because I hear so many stories about so many people that were battling more than just I have to have academic excellence, but also the adult that I am in the world is struggling and all this. So how did you get through that phase of your life? I imagine that it took some time to even be comfortable talking about the version of student pharmacist that you were to the person that you are today and how you position yourself to be a source of so much positivity and light for young learners. Okay, so real quick, if you're enjoying this conversation, go ahead and rate and review the podcast. It helps more people find the show and keeps the conversation going. Okay, so let's get back to the conversation.
Absolutely. It took a long time. So, to be honest, I think this is one of the reasons that I am so passionate about talking about things like imposter phenomenon, because
Yeah.
I did feel like I spent so much time going, I am faking it, right?
Yeah.
I am, I know that I am smart and I know that I can do this, but I'm also keeping up this facade of having so much of my life together
Mm.
because I was afraid that had I spoken up and said, actually, I'm going through a divorce and
Mm.
sleeping on people's couches,
Yeah.
having friends and students taking pity on me,
Yeah.
if people had known that side, would they have thought she can be a successful resident? Or would they have thought she's a train wreck?
Oh
We
my
don't want to
God.
match that.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Can we talk about this for a second? The space I'm in, the candidates are petrified about being authentic. We tell them, be yourself, be authentic. And the resounding question that comes up for every single one that has overcome something difficult, housing insecurity, substance use disorder in the family, or even with them themselves as they were surviving school, abuse, domestic violence, they think that sharing that stuff when you are in a competitive landscape like residency is a negative. What do you want that candidate to know about authenticity and its power in a process like postgraduate training?
So I think there is so much power. And honestly, more than you realize, there's going to be somebody like me that's going, I see myself in you. I didn't have the courage to say
Mm.
any of the things that were happening at that level of my life because of fear. And so I'm going to go, wow, like I'm honoring that bravery and that
Yeah,
vulnerability in you. If I
yeah,
hear a candidate that's very open about struggles, I tell my students all the time, like, I am an open book. And it didn't happen immediately, right? Like,
yeah.
I definitely kept a lot of this close to the vest for a few years because I wanted to, I guess, prove myself before I took that jump. But once
Yeah,
I felt like I really had started to open myself up to being someone that people knew as successful,
yeah.
that also came with me adding those layers of vulnerability and saying, you see success, but let me tell you all the pieces that it took to get there. All of the
Mm.
nights that I just cried in the floor because
Yeah.
I didn't know how to even live my life beyond the classroom.
Yeah. Oh my God. I admire your courage and bravery so much in talking about that because I don't know what it is. Like when I was in school, it was really, I had to be perfect. Perfectionism was a real thing. Can you talk to us a little bit about the intersectionality between imposter syndrome and the chase of perfectionism? Because that I think is what's going to really usher us into how they come to us as young learners and APPEs in residencies, and you're watching a thing happening in front of you and it's like, how do we kind of start engaging them to help them recognize like what's happening? So let's start with like, what imposter phenomenon, what is this thing? What is it, Kate? Tell us.
Yeah. So, imposter phenomenon, it really comes down to those feelings of self doubt, those feelings of, I don't belong here.
Yeah.
I didn't deserve to make it to where I'm at. But not only that, I think the piece that really differentiates it being imposter phenomenon is that you let it hold you back,
Yeah.
right? Because all of us are going to have some healthy self doubt at times
Yeah.
where we know we don't know something. None of
Mhm.
us are ever at a point where we have achieved and we know all of the things,
Yeah.
right? There's something to learn every single day.
Absolutely.
And I hope that if you're in pharmacy, you're a lifelong learner that knows that you're never going to have every single thing figured out.
Yeah.
But it's when you let that hold you back and you let it
Mhm,
limit your ability to put yourself out there and
mhm.
be authentic. That's really
Yeah.
where you start seeing those imposter thoughts coming in, right? Is that if I'm found out, they're going to know I don't belong here, as opposed to going, I do deserve to be here. And also, there's room for growth.
Yeah.
That growth mindset is what carries you
Mhm.
beyond the perfectionism.
Yeah. Yeah. And in a final year student pharmacist, how does some of this manifest as you're watching them and I think it's one of the favorite things about my career, the opportunity to watch students in that transition. And I'm watching and I'm like, but you were just a second year student pharmacist. Like, how did we get here? You're finishing a PGY2 and starting your first job, right? But how does some of this imposter syndrome and perfectionism, this tug of war in APPE students, what does that look like from an outsider watching them?
I usually notice it when I hear the learner qualify things where
Mm,
they think they know something, but
yeah.
they want to always leave that caveat of, well, I don't know for sure, right?
Uh-huh.
They want to protect themselves
Yeah.
because they're afraid that if they go all in on saying, I know this thing, and then
Yeah.
they're wrong, that's going to make them feel like a fraud. And so
Confirmation.
yes. And
Yeah.
so if I start hearing a lot of that recurrent verbiage of, well, I'm not completely sure, but this is what I think I know, but they typically are on the money,
Yeah.
that's when I go, okay, like you know what you know.
Yeah.
So just own it. Own what you
Yeah.
know.
What do you think preceptors maybe can do differently, right? Because I think sometimes, like I tell everybody, I will never not take an opportunity to attend a preceptor development because I always learn something new that I feel like, no, my student tomorrow, I'm going to test this out. I'm going to see if this works for me. But I think when I talk to some of my colleagues, it's not that they don't want students. They just feel like they're ill prepared to take on the responsibility of teaching and guiding another student. And for someone like you, where this is such a comfort zone, it's a passion for you. What advice do you have for the millennial or even somebody that's interested in starting to experiment with precepting? What are some thoughts you have about how to get started in becoming more confident in that space?
I think number one is that we all walk in the door with a growth mindset every day,
Yeah,
right? I'm a huge proponent of talking about this with learners because honestly, I had never heard that term until after residency, right?
absolutely.
And to some degree, I think that I sold myself short in going, well,
Mhm.
I don't know that. I don't understand that. And certain topics I felt like were just beyond me, as opposed to
Yeah.
going, I don't know, but I can learn. And so that addition of that's not what I specialized in, but I can learn. That
Mm-hmm.
has been a real game changer for me and helped me chase some kind of extra things like going through a whole mini residency, as they call it. It's like a
Hmm.
14-hour training on
Hmm.
substance use disorder. I never
Yeah.
had any training in that in residency,
Yeah.
but decided that as a practitioner
Yeah.
and the face that a lot of patients trust, that would actually be a good thing for me to
Hmm.
know more about and know how to start those conversations, maybe do prescribing, but also just letting them
Yeah.
see me as someone that is well equipped to handle that conversation and start that
Absolutely.
conversation. And
Absolutely.
so I think growth mindset is a big, big part of it. And
Mhm.
just letting both the learner and the preceptor have that permission to go, I don't know, but I know I'm
Yeah.
capable of learning this. I think it is absolutely a great idea for all of us as preceptors
Yeah.
to take away that idea of, I have to know everything.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm.
I have tried to normalize telling my learners, I'm going to look that up. I
Yeah.
don't remember, right?
Uh,
Like formulary changes, and I don't remember the dose adjustment on this DPP4 because I haven't
yeah.
used it in a
A
decade.
lifetime.
And so letting them see that I look
Yeah.
things up really is one of the big things that I would say for a young preceptor,
Yeah.
especially because you're young and you want them to think you're competent, but
Mm.
showing learners that competence doesn't mean knowing everything. It means knowing how to use the skills
My
learned.
gosh, that I feel like that's such a profound statement, Kate, because we equate competence with knowing it all, inside and out, fully. Wake me up out of my sleep, ask me what is the dosing and what is the renal dose adjustment. I can tell you normal and renal dose adjustment. That's when I believe I'm competent. But what you're talking about here is that as a person who's making the decision to contribute and have a learner where you want to play a role in that person's development, normalizing for that person and them watching you confidently say, I'm going to look that up to make sure that I am more confident about my answer. I think it could be a game changer and we should normalize that, right? And I want to have us talk about residency and how we receive our learners. You go through recruiting every single year. You're giddy. You get like all excited about recruiting. I see you at mid-year, you're going to showcase, you got this presentation. It's such an exciting time for you. And it genuinely shows how much you love getting your next class in, right? What are you thinking about? Like that excitement, what fuels that for you when you go to mid-year and you're like, yes, it's go time, let's meet some people. Where does that come from for you?
I think a lot of it is remembering what it's like to be on the other side.
Yeah.
And, a lot of us went into the showcase and
Mm,
had programs that they felt like they genuinely wanted to meet you and programs
yeah.
that didn't.
Absolutely.
And so that's one piece of it, right? Is
Mhm.
I do absolutely love learning and training and all of that. There is no front there. That is
Oh,
truly I will nerd out on education things all day.
okay, so real quick, if you're enjoying this conversation, go ahead and rate and review the podcast. It helps more people find the show and keeps the conversation going. Okay, so let's get back to the conversation.
But also, I don't ever want a student to come up and meet me and go, "She did not want to be here,"
Yeah, yeah,
because that is the furthest thing from the truth.
yeah. Oh, we know. We know. I was like, look at Kate all excited in her sneakers, like she's about business. She's ready to go to the check-in. So then when they come on the interview and everything, what do you hope every single pharmacy residency candidate gets out of their interview experience? Like as a person who sits on the other side and you drive a lot of this process, what do you see and you're like, "Ugh, I wish you could see what I see," type thing?
I hope that they see that there is deep commitment to training them well, right?
Yeah.
Because honestly, I work with some of the most fantastic preceptors that I am just honored that I get to even like share space with, right? And so we are constantly trying to let them know like we are committed to being educators. We are committed to helping them see what it's like to have a family dynamic where a lot of preceptors, we call on each other for things, right?
Yeah.
Like I have a great friend who is a psych pharmacist. And so we joke in, our interviews because all of a sudden there'll be something that we're discussing and she's like, "I learned a new thing today because I didn't know
No,
what that word
that
meant." As a candidate might mention something that they did on a rotation and she's like, "Tell me about that,"
that,
because
yeah.
that's out of her wheelhouse, and it's a chance
Yeah.
for them to watch us also be curious and see
Yeah.
that that is not something that we ever put away. We
Mhm.
all are lifelong learners who are
Yeah.
curious and want to learn outside our normal practice.
100%. It's so important. And you've talked about it so much, right? Lifelong learner, mindset, growth mindset. I feel like when it's the transformation that I see in like the candidates between interview 1 and 3, by the third interview, it's like something has happened. They have figured out who they are. They're like, I know. And I ask them, what are your 3 pillars that you're leaving behind? Oh, I know what it is. It's work ethic, dependability, and willingness to learn. I'm like, okay, that wasn't clear when we've been working 2 weeks ago, but it's clear now. And I don't think people understand that the process, it will reveal things to you about you. And when you
Mhm.
have an amazing interaction with an amazing program, you walk away like, yeah, 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 yeah. This is the one. this is where I see this thing going. So then they come to you after match day. It's super exciting. Everybody's like, yay, we got the candidates we wanted. And they come to you and residency starts, and it starts like from day one. It's at 100 already. By October, it's at 250%. I would really love your perspective on how important communication and self-advocacy is at this stage of their career.
Yeah. So I think it's really interesting, right? Because a lot of us, especially if we've been practicing for a little while, we never would have even used that term, right?
Yeah. Oh my God, no.
I had a conversation actually earlier today. So in our residency program, I lead a book club, and we go through the 7 habits of highly effective people. And
People.
so we were talking at book club
Great
today,
book.
right? So good.
Great book.
So we're talking about that. And one of the things in the chapter that we were discussing was about boundaries and saying no, right?
Mhm.
And I cannot even fathom, like as a student or a resident,
Yeah.
even considering that, right?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was like, if there was even a glimmer of an opportunity, you say yes. There is no no. And, I think that obviously in residency, there are the things that you don't really have a choice to say no to. But then there's plenty of things that you're choosing.
Yes.
And so we had a great conversation today about what are things you wish you'd said no to?
Yeah. Oh,
What
I
are
like
things
that.
that maybe did not go the way you thought they were going to when you first said yes?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it also teaches you not only to advocate for yourself, but to ask better questions.
Absolutely.
Because maybe you didn't have a great understanding of what you were getting into before you said yes, right? You jumped on it, you said yes, and then you said, that's not what I was expecting. And so teaching residents now to start having those skills where they're asking enough questions that they can have that level of advocacy and I'm honored by the offer. I don't think this is the right time for me to pursue that. It's okay to say that now is not the right time.
Yeah.
And I didn't learn that until far later in my career.
Ma'am, none of us did, right? Because the prevailing advice is raise your hand often, say yes, even if you don't know what the next steps are. And so I always tell students, like, there has to be a version of this whole thing where raising my hand often can coexist with also recognizing that not right now is okay. But raising my hand always and constantly being in a crisis, engaging in things that I absolutely don't even find valuable, enjoyable at all, just because I want to be known as the person who always raises their hand, that's going to cause more harm because that the road to burnout, it's paved with just examples of that, right? And so for you as a teacher and somebody that works with young learners, what are some clues as you're watching things unfold and the year unfold where you're like, you're going to burn yourself out going like that? And how do you facilitate bringing that person, calling them in for that check-in to just make sure that like, I'm picking up on some cues and I just want to make sure like you're good?
I would say one of the things that I'm constantly watching for is, does it seem like they're disengaging? Right?
Yeah.
Are they engaging the same way with their peers, with patients? If I'm not seeing the same level of engagement,
Yeah.
often that is the warning sign, right?
Uh-huh.
Because when we think about what burnout really is, right? We think about the disengagement piece, we think
Yeah.
of the lack of feeling personal accomplishment. And
Yeah.
often that's how that presents, is you see them not excited anymore and not connecting with people as much because they're just emotionally exhausted. And so when I see that picture, I immediately am like, okay, first of all, what are we doing to make sure that you are taking care of you, right?
Mhm.
Where's your community?
Ah,
Where ability to prioritize the first things first?
yeah.
Yes, residency is going to have a lot of things and a lot of deadlines. It takes some skill to
Mhm.
navigate that, to navigate
Absolutely.
all those pieces and do it in a way that does not burn you out,
Yeah.
right? It can be difficult. Our requirements per ASHP are not a cakewalk.
It's not light work. It's not light
It is
work.
not, but at the same time, it is doable, and especially
Absolutely.
if you are making a point to really plan things well, know
Mhm.
your deadlines, know the things that are coming, and always keep the first things first. Like, don't disconnect from your people and your family and
Yeah.
the things that matter. If
Hmm.
you stay plugged into what matters, you are
Yeah.
much more likely to be able to succeed. And so
Yeah.
that's always my first thing. Like, are you plugged in at your source?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, you just gave us a word. I feel like we got to put that on a teacher. If you stay plugged into the things that matter, you're always going to be more likely to succeed. I think that's so true. My personal experience and how hard my year of residency was, it was also like while I moved to this city, I know nobody in. I'm hospitalized the first 2 weeks of residency while everybody goes to orientation and get acclimated and get to grab coffee together. I'm laid up at that hospital where they're all doing rotations. And then I come back and start battling with if I tell this program that I need support because I have to enlist on a transplant list, and that means a lot of appointments, and that means a psych eval. I've never gone through one of those before. And that means if I ask for the support I need here for the things I have going on that have nothing to do with residency, well, that make me a weak resident. And I kid you not, that set me on a path and trajectory where I hurt myself because I figured like I could carry all this burden on my own and not just ask for the support I needed and wait for the place to tell me or really show me who they are, right? Because that would have been a way for me to know what type of place I'm in if they said, we can't help or we can't adjust your schedule, so on and so forth. And so the part about self-advocacy that I find is very important is how do I ask for what I need to be successful? And what do I do when that's not residency related? Is as a uniquely abled individual, a person that is living with a disability, how do I ask for what I need to be supported, particularly when the support I'm asking for has nothing to do with residency? Okay, so real quick, if you're enjoying this conversation, go ahead and rate and review the podcast. It helps more people find the show and keeps the conversation going. Okay, so let's get back to the conversation. A lot of my fear in getting the support, that was the source of it. I'm asking for accommodations to deal with life, not preceptor issues, not rotation issues, but to deal with life. How do we do that? Or how do we do that?
So I would say number one, with a big dose of vulnerability, right? I'm a huge fan of Brene Brown, and
Yeah.
reading, The Power of Vulnerability was a really great book for me because it helped me realize that it's not a weakness
Yeah.
to say, this is what's going on
Yeah.
and this is what I need, right?
Mhm.
Vulnerability is actually our greatest strength. It's
Yeah.
what ties us to other people, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like, it allows us to see the shared humanity in each other. And I know it's hard as a learner to want
Mhm.
to do that, but
Um,
also if you're in the right program, they are going to be so proud of you for that.
yeah. Yeah.
Now, if you're not in the right program, it's going to be hard, right?
Very.
If
Mhm.
you realize that you are not being supported, and then you have hard decisions, right? Of,
Yeah.
do you stay and tough it out? Do you
Mhm.
start over at another
Right.
time? But I would say we are all humans. Some of us have put up enough walls that we forget it,
Yeah.
but
Facts.
everyone has some cracks in there if you dig
Mhm.
far enough. And
Yeah.
so I don't ever want a learner to be afraid to let that vulnerability
Mm.
out around me,
Yeah.
because I just wish that I had felt that safety to do that
Yeah.
sooner in my career.
Oh my God. It's so true. It's totally a safety thing. It's totally a safety thing because I think that I did not feel like this was safe for me to do. I felt like really letting them in on what I was up against it would have somehow like changed the way they saw me. And my entire brand was nothing other than I make the impossible possible. I tough it out through whatever the obstacle is. I'm going to push past it and make it happen. But in this instance, I needed help and
Mhm.
didn't ask for it, right? And then went on to get very angry when what I needed wasn't being provided. So it's like I had roped myself into this cycle. And so when I sit down with the students on day one, I always just say, how can I support you? And I need to know what that looks like, both from a learner standpoint and in your life. If there are things going on outside, the sooner you rope me in on that to a level you're comfortable with, the more I know about how I can support you, right? Maybe daycare
Right.
doesn't open till 8 and asking you to be at rotation at 7, it's just not going to be possible for you. So instead of being late chronically the entire rotation and not tell me anything, telling me that, well, I have a whole drop off thing I have to do, right? And so I'm really grateful for people like you, because I think that when I see white women that are advocating and making vulnerability safer, I think it gives me a lot of courage, because I'm not going to lie to say that identity doesn't cross my mind. Like, I ended up in this top program. Was it a fluke, right? Imposter syndrome. I'm going to be found out, right? Was it a fluke? So do I have something to prove? I need to prove that, like, I didn't end up here by accident, but I have a track record that gives me this space. And so I think, like, what I love about your position on this is you're advocating for it for everybody and not making it something that is only available to certain people. Kate, where does that courage come from?
I mean, honestly, my faith. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's the root of all of it for me,
Mm.
right? Like, I know that I'm plugged into somebody that doesn't lose,
Yeah.
right?
I love
Like, I may have felt like I lost a lot of battles early in my life when I was struggling, but I also found a much deeper faith
Yeah.
after that. And so I constantly am going, I don't need to be afraid, right? Like, I know that either he's going to work it for good,
Yeah.
right? Or that it's going to be something that this story is going to
Yeah.
benefit someone else,
Yes.
right? I know that you've heard me say it more than once, but I will always say one of my absolute favorite quotes is, our scars become lighthouses for those that
Yeah.
hit the same rocks we did. The
Yeah.
author John Acuff said that, and it has always been one of the most guiding things for me as I tell my story, as I write, as I speak. Hearing those words in 2022 really was a moment that changed me, because I said, I have a lot of scars.
Yeah.
Why am I not sharing them?
Yeah. And we appreciate and admire and respect the courage that with which you share, with which you give. Like, I remember, I'm not going to cry during this episode because that is not why we're here.
We can if we have to.
No, I don't want to. But when my mom passed away and you found out about that, you were one of the most consistent people that checked in every single day. You checked in with a message, you checked in with encouragement, you checked in with prayer. And to you, you're probably just being Kate, right? Like, you're probably just being like, I wonder, remember to eat today, right? Like, but they're worrying a ton of people that were doing the simple one-liners. Like, I'm just here if you need me.
Yeah.
And it mattered to me. And it made a difference at a time that was incredibly difficult to describe with respect to just the many pieces that I just fell into, right? But I just want you to know that I appreciate it. I love it. I would do residency again if you guys would take, like, I would totally be a resident and, like, follow you around with my clipboard and just do whatever you say. But thank you, Kate. Thank
Yeah.
you. I wish there was another way to kind of repay you for that, but
No.
I appreciated that very much. And it meant a lot to me that I was on your heart every day like that, to check in and check on me. I ask every guest this question because, well, you're full of wisdom. So for the student that has just matched, whether it was phase 1 or the third, they are preparing to embark on residency. They don't know the community they're about to enter, the hospital they're going to, the organization they're going to join. We pray and wish everybody the best. It won't be like that for everyone. What is your advice for the person that is about to just venture out into the unknown on how they get through this and succeed.
I think probably one of the things that is the most important to be successful in residency is compassion. And that is mostly starting with yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So the fact is, I've talked a lot about compassion at different, events and things like that. And we talk about how compassion helps us care for patients better, right? But the number one predictor of compassion fatigue and whether or not you're going to be able to continue to pour into other people well is self-compassion. And you cannot stop giving yourself grace
Yeah.
if you want to be successful as you care for patients.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's so real. That is so real because we pull up, like I saw it during COVID. Like it just, you pull up and you want to give the patients, but like you're bankrupt. It's like
Hmm.
you don't have any more patients to watch one more patient pass away. You don't have any more patients for any of it. But it also starts with you. There's like all this guilt that went along with every day. This is real, 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 real advice. So having that grace and controlling the conversations we have with ourselves. And again, like you've said it so many times, the growth mindset and you don't know everything is so, so important. I'm so grateful
Yes.
that we did this. And if you are a student that is going into residency, you should follow Kate. You should follow Kate because Kate's messages are not just for her student, her spirit and all of this energy and light that she shares are not just for her residents. She really does put it out there for everybody to be able to benefit from it. And I hope that I've been able to introduce you to someone today that you're going to carry with you and have her be like a distant member of your board of directors on your journey to success. I appreciate you. I respect you. I admire you so much. Thank you.
It's mutual.
Thank you, Kay. I appreciate you doing this. And please have a wonderful rest of your day. Okay, so real quick, if you're enjoying this conversation, go ahead and rate and review the podcast. It helps more people find the show and keeps the conversation going. Okay, so let's get back to the conversation. Now that it is just us, you guys, I cannot tell you how absolutely amazing it is to hear from Kate. Every time I talk to her, I learn something new about her. But the point of this episode, and I hope that you heard it because Kate made it multiple times, it's that number one, it is never as bad as we think it is in the way we think about ourselves. That kindness and that grace that we have to give ourselves if we decide that continuous improvement is a goal, there is no endpoint. So our mindset around learning, the way we view ourselves as learners, and the places and contexts and importance we place on the people who've been trusted with the responsibility to teach us, and why it's important for those folks to also humble themselves and demonstrating for new learners that it is okay not to know everything. Self-advocacy is a really new idea. You heard Kate talk about it today. When we were going through it, we didn't know what that was. We didn't know what that looked like. So we just powered through whatever was put in front of us. But you also learned today that there is a possibility that you can say no, not right now, and that not be this earth-shattering decision that's going to derail your entire career. I think what's continuing to make Kate very successful in this space as student advocate is that you genuinely sense a desire to want to make things better. And that's not always true for everyone. For some people, it's just a job. But when you meet Kate and talk to her, you can sense that she is genuinely interested in raising awareness, empowering others, educating and pouring into others so that we are all on this continuous journey of becoming better versions of ourselves. And we are doing that with a lot of grace, a lot of patience, a lot of humility. I'm grateful that I was able to have this conversation with my friend today. And I'm grateful that I may have been able to introduce you to a new person on your journey to becoming the best version of who you're meant to be. Thank you for joining as always and have a wonderful rest of your week. I'll see you again next week. Okay, bye. If this episode gave you something to think about, something to hold on to, or even something to act on, I want to ask you for one more thing. take a moment to rate and review the podcast. It feels really small, but it's actually one of the biggest ways you can support this show. It helps more people find these conversations and become part of this community we're building right here on Success and Dosage.